In a really fun duel to see dice roll versus coin flip, we witnessed Epoch's first duel, and honestly, this whole episode made me love her character even more, as her passion to win was on full display. Hello everyone and welcome to Dueling with Downton, and today we're into all things episode 68 of the Yugioh Go Rush anime series, an episode that explores the Kamijo family history while also showing us the playstyle that Epoch will be using. So let's start off with that topic. Her deck is all about dice roll, and I loved how once again they're using an old established card and turning it into its own unique archetype. This time we have a new deck themed around graceful and skull dice. And I believe this is the first time that we've actually seen dice rolling happen in Rush Dueling. So there not being a dice for anyone to roll makes complete sense, and it's understandable why Epoch would become her own die. This was just amazing to see anyway, and it goes in line with her box scene. Yes, she did cheat a little, but honestly, it's her first duel, and her actions definitely showed her desire to win. We already know that Epoch loves to win, thanks to her introductional episode in where we see her challenge Yugioh to that box game challenge. And in that, she did show a level of unfairness, so her cheating in this episode wasn't a massive surprise. But going back to her desires to win, this really got emphasized a lot more after the duel was done, as her emotions of sadness and disappointment really did shine through, and it helped to solidify her liking dueling, even if her dialogue states that she doesn't. Because you wouldn't react like that after losing if you didn't care about the game you're playing. Another thing that I loved about Epoch's character were her victory dances. She thought she had the game in the bag, and throughout this duel, she was dancing and cheering herself along, which I thought she was pretty good at because they were fun, enthusiastic, showed her passion, showed her enjoyment, and she genuinely did make some great plays. Now, I can't wait to see what happens in the celebration when she actually wins a duel, because I think when she finally gets her first on-screen win, will also be the first time we see her first actual on-screen appearance without the box covering her face. However, with that being said, there are so many great quirks with Epoch's character, like her light inside of the box that she showed off in this episode, the signs that she shows, her catchphrase, her turning into the dice and rolling, and so many more things that I'm starting to not want to see the character leaving the box itself. Yet at the same time, I understand that it's probably required for her character development, because once her character fully develops, that's when she finally doesn't become shy enough to need the box anymore. Now, switching gears, let's talk about the cheap space furniture store, as this seems to be behind Luke's sudden appearance change. Now, the ending suggests that the person who turned Luke into a chair was the Providence. Now, this would mean that the Providence would have gotten his revenge on Luke for, turning his friends and everyone else into ice. But it also makes a lot of sense, because the Providence is a nil variant. And if they are in charge of, or at least working for the cheap space furniture store, and we know that Nail from Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's creator Sebastian, who is an armchair, it would then allow us, the viewer, to know/see how Nail got his chairmake skills. But the question remains as to, will we actually get this conflict between the Kamijo family and the cheap space furniture store resolved? And how will it? Will a duel between Epoch and the Providence occur, in where Epoch gets the win while overcoming a maximum? Why a maximum though? Because we know the Providence doesn't yet have one. Well, I think her losing her first duel to a maximum could have been foreshadowing her needing to overcome one in the future, as we already know she has an interest in the maximums because of her interaction with Yugioh before the duel occurred. Plus, with the Providence being a nil variant, we can assume that he's also going to have ties with a maximum monster. And with the Earth companies, i.e. Goha, Mutsuba, and MIK, mass-producing these maximum cards, it's quite easy for him to obtain one now. Also, we haven't seen Why Dragio yet, and Yuga hasn't shown him it being in his possession, and we know it should be. And Yugioh spent a lot of time on the Luke's ship. So, who knows? Maybe we can see it returning soon. Now, returning to the topic of dueling, the duel itself I thought was great, as again we got to see a lot of passion from Epoch's character, and it made me want to root for her in order for her to win. But I still think having Yuhi win this duel was the correct decision, overall. And I like the callback from Yumu in saying how Yuhi can't lose to both Yugioh when Yugioh was a beginner, and now Epoch, aka Yugioh's beginner level student. Like, that would just be embarrassing, right? I love seeing how Graceful and Skull Dice cards were getting their own archetype, while the Jointechs also get a maximum to power up their archetype. Although I'm still not a fan of this archetype, I still think it looks way too goofy, but if people like using it, then that's their prerogative. Another thing that happened within this episode was Monavu returning to MIK. This was nice, and I like how they are making him work his way up through the ranks once again, as this shows that his actions from the previous arc has consequences. I can imagine Phaser being like, sure, you're rehired, back into your old position. But then Tremolo being like, no, you need to start at the bottom because you're scum and my brother is too nice to you if you're returning. So, again, we saw how the dynamics between Tremolo and Phaser had changed, but then we never got to see that. I still think in my head that Phaser will be like, yeah, don't worry, you betrayed us, big deal. Forget about it. And then Tremolo will probably be like, dude, I haven't forgotten. You get down and pack in order. Anyways, those are my thoughts on this episode. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see more from Epoch duels. And, of course, her character development in the future. Let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. Love to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for all things Yu-Gi-Oh! Have a great thing. Have a great day. Arigato. Matane. Goodbye.